Shall we start? الحمد لله الذي أنزل القرآن العظيم في شهر رمضان الكريم والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to episode 3 of Ramadan Reflections. Subhanallah, the days of Ramadan have gone so quickly. Today is the 19th of Ramadan. And we only have a few number of days left to make the best of it. You know, days are going, and who knows if we would have another opportunity to fast in the month of Ramadan. Thinking about the people who were with us last Ramadan, many have left, and we don't know if we will make it. So we have a limited number of days left. And as we mentioned, Ramadan is a month of striving. It is a month of patience, a month of victory over the devils, over the shayateen, and of course, over our own evil nafs. Last episode, we spoke of how fasting helps us to condition ourselves, to overcome the whispering of the devils and our evil selves. Because obviously, this month is a month where Rasulullah SAW mentioned the devils are chained up. Yeah, so the influence of the shayateen is less than it is in the 11 months. Rasulullah SAW said, إِذَا جَاءَ رَمَضَانَ فُتِحَتْ أَبْوَابُ الْجَنَّةِ وَغُلِّقَتْ أَبْوَابُ النَّارِ. That the day when the month of Ramadan comes, the gates of paradise are wide open and the gates of hellfire are closed and the devils are chained up. And obviously, there are many different interpretations as to what that actually means. But what we do know is that the devils are not able to affect us, are not able to whisper us into our hearts as they are able to do so in the 11th month, because everybody is geared towards one thing, you know, which is to worship Allah, to attain His nearness, to fast, we are from the time we begin our fast until we end the fast, and the sleep itself, all of it is ibadah. Yeah, and there is some narration which mentioned that sleep in the month of Ramadan is also ibadah, because we sleep to wake up, to take suhoor, to pray fajr, and the fasting day starts. My dear brothers and sisters, I've mentioned this in week 1, week 2, and I'm mentioning today that fasting was not prescribed so that we become hungry and thirsty. That's not the purpose of fasting. Yeah, the fasting that is not that we feel hunger and thirst. Some people think, oh, fasting is there because Allah wants us to feel the pain and the suffering. Yeah, that could be one of the minor objectives of the Siyam. I'm not going to say no. Yeah, it might be one of the minor objectives, because having less of something reminds us of the blessing that we have. Yeah, sometimes we don't realize the blessing that we have from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the food and the drink. It's only when we have less of it. But we do this by choice. You know, we can always eat. And at iftar time, some people obviously go mad. But might be a minor objective, to feel hunger and feel how other people around the world who are less fortunate than us might be feeling, and to remember them and to think about them, and also to support them and pray for them. That's all. I'm not going to say this is not part of the objective of Siyam, but this is a minor objective, you can say. But the main objective, as mentioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the main wisdom and the main benefit of fasting is so that we attain taqwa. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyamu kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. Oh, you who believe, fasting has been prescribed upon you as it was prescribed upon those before you, in order that you may attain taqwa. Yeah, so through fasting we are supposed to be attaining taqwa. And taqwa, as we mentioned as well, is not simply the fear of Allah, but taqwa is the act of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and leaving sin. This is what true taqwa is. Yeah, this is what taqwa is. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand this. There are a lot of people out there who do fast, but their objective, their purpose of fasting is not, they don't do it correctly. And as a result, they might lose out on the thawab, on the reward of the fast. People out there, they fast for cultural reasons. There are people who fast to lose weight. I mentioned that in the first week. There are people who think Fasting is good for your health. There are a lot of, there are some research out there that talks about the benefits of fasting. Of course, there is benefit. There's benefit in everything that Allah commands us to do. There is even benefit in the salah. Yeah, you can find many benefits, but is that the reason why we fast? Do we fast because we want, does Allah want us to fast because He wants us to lose weight? Does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to fast so that we have, we have a good health? No, that is not the purpose of fast. Although through fasting that will come, that is, an extra blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives. But as I said, there are people who fast and we pray and we hope. And this is scary, brothers and sisters. This hadith, every time I read this hadith, it makes me worried. It makes me scared. Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, rubba sa'imin laysa lahu min siyamihi illa al-ju'. Ya Allah, He said, rubba sa'imin laysa lahu min siyamihi illa al-ju'. He said there might be a person who's fasting and he gets nothing from his fasting except hunger. Except for hunger. The only thing he gets from fasting, we are fasting long hours, the days are long, although shorter this year than the previous years, but the days are long, they're very long days. It's not easy, it's hard. I was just speaking to somebody yesterday, somebody, part of my work, and I was saying, how is a Muslim? I said, how's fasting going? You might be, fasting is probably easier. Now that you don't have to go to work and you're at home. You say, no, brother, fasting is hard. So what do you mean it's hard? Because, well, I'm always looking at the clock and the days are like, they don't move. The hours are not moving. Yeah, the hours are long. And the only thing that some people will get is hunger and nothing else. رُبَّ صَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ صِيَامِهِ إِلَّا الْجُوعِ. One might fast, but gets nothing from his fast except for hunger. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not make us like those people who fast and get nothing from their fast except hunger. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also said, رُبَّ قَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ قِيَامِهِ إِلَّا السَّهَرِ. And again, Taraweeh and Qiyamul Layl is something that we do in the month of Ramadan, but why do we do it? Again, some people might say, hey, it's good exercise, man, 20 rakah. Can you imagine? I don't go to the gym, but 20 rakah, after 20 rakah, I feel like, I've done a workout. Yeah, I'm losing weight during the day, and now I'm doing Taraweeh, I'm doing workout, at the end of the month, lose some weight, lose some calorie, praying Taraweeh, 8 rakah, 20 rakah, whatever you pray, 8 rakah, 20 rakah or more. Let's not go into that debate. Yeah, but really, that's not the purpose. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَرُبَّ قَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ قِيَامِهِ إِلَّا السَّهَرِ. One might pray during the night, but gets nothing from his prayer but fatigue. He feels tired. That's what you get. You feel fatigue. Now, my dear brothers and sisters, we are basing our discussion on the Ihya Ulumuddin of Al-Imam Abu Hamid Muhammad Al-Ghazali, rahimahullah, one of the most brilliant scholars of Islam, especially when it comes to spirituality. Ihya Ulumuddin is an amazing book. Some might criticize the book because it does contain a lot of weak and even fabricated hadiths, not a great deal. Of course, it does contain authentic and other hadiths as well, but the book itself is really good. And last week I mentioned some reading that you can do on your own. I mentioned Inner Dimension of Islamic Worship, which is the chapter which we are covering, and it's translated in English from the Ihya Ulumuddin by Muhtar Holland, and you can get that from the Islamic Foundation. And I mentioned there's Mukhtasar Ihya Ulumuddin translated, Mukhtasar done by the Imam himself, and it's translated in English and is available. But also there are other translation or Mukhtasar, abridgment done by other scholars of the past and of recent time. Like for example, Imam Ibn al-Jawzi, rahimahullah, he did Minhaj al-Qasidin, where he took out a lot of the problematic hadith. It's a good book. I'm not sure if Minhaj al-Qasidin is available in English. However, there is Ibn Qudama did Mukhtasar Minhaj al-Qasidin. He did the ikhtisar of that book, and that is available in English. Now, if you look into the bookshop, you might find it. If you can't find it in the bookshop, you might find something online, a PDF version as well. I don't encourage people to do that, but in the absence of the book itself. If you can't find it, then maybe that might something that you might want to try. So Mukhtasar Minhaj al-Qasidin is a summary of the Ihya Ulumuddin. Right, and there are other ones, other books that I've written. So in the book, Al-Imam Rahimahullah, he talks about the people who fast and the degrees of the people who observe fast. Not everybody is the same level. Just like I explained, there are people who fast, but their fasting is not the same. They don't fast for the same reason. Yeah, some do it for cultural reason. Some do it because, you have non-Muslims observing fast because they want to show solidarity with the Muslim community, or they want to, whatever, they want to raise money. Yeah, but they won't get any reward. Yeah, they won't get any reward of fasting. Yeah, some people fast for cultural reasons. Some people do it for whatever reason. And then Imam al-Ghazali mentioned that the fasting people who observe fast, there are three. There are three types of fast. Yeah. The first is Sawm al-Umum. Sawm al-Umum, which is the ordinary fast. The ordinary fast. And which is, we can say, what majority of the people, especially, and majority of the people, they do. Yeah, this is the bare minimum, the basic level. Yeah, in this level, what we do is we prevent the stomach and the private parts from the physical desires. Yeah, kaful batan wal faraj an shahawat. Yeah, this is the Sawm al-Umum. This is what everyone does. This is the bare minimum, because without this, the fast from a fiqhi legal perspective, it will not be valid. If you're not abstaining from the physical desires, your fast will not be valid. So this is the bare minimum. This is the Sawm al-Umum. And that's what everyone who fasts, they do that. They have to do that, and that's what they do. But as Muslims, yeah, we need to go extra. We need to go beyond that. And there are other levels that we need to be aware of. Yeah, so Imam Ghazali, he starts with Sawm al-Umum, then he mentions Sawm al-Khusus, which is the special fast. And I'll explain this in a bit more detail, inshallah, in a bit. So Sawm al-Umum is the ordinary fast. Sawm al-Khusus is the special fast. And then in Sawm Khusus al-Khusus, the extra special fast, which is the highest level. And inshallah, if we try harder, and we should aspire to get to that level, yeah, to the highest level, because that is the best. That is the best, and and this is the fast of the Anbiya alayhim salam and the pious people. So in the first level, as I mentioned, it is to refrain from the desires of the stomach and the desires of the private parts. In the second level, it is to prevent. The Sawm al-Khusus is to prevent or to refrain our hearing, our seeing, our tongue, our hands, our legs, our limbs from sins. This is the Sawm al-Khusus. In the third level, which is the Sawm Khusus al-Khusus, is the Sawm al-Qalb, Kaful Qalb, yeah, is to refrain the heart from unworthy concerns. This is the higher level. So you moved on from the physical abstention of food and the physical desires. Then you move on to the second level, and then the higher level, which is not only our limbs, and not only are we abstaining from food and drink and the physical desire, and not only are we abstaining from sin, but also our heart is abstaining from unworthy concerns and worldly thoughts. And so in this level, the believer, the servant of Allah, prevents, empties their heart, empties their mind from anything but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They live and they die for Allah. Everything they do it for Allah. Every action, every movement, yeah, and their concern is the akhirah. Nothing much, nothing else. All their concern is the akhirah at this stage. Some khusus al-khusus, they they're in a level where they are only concerned about akhirah. And even when they are engaged in the dunya, whatever they do of the dunyawi activity, yeah, they do it so with the intention of benefiting the akhirah. So the purpose of the dunya becomes the akhirah. Yeah, it doesn't mean that they become hermits and they lock up themselves up in whatever. No, they still people who eat and walk and do their daily job. But whatever they do it for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They do it for the akhirah. And this is something very important we need to understand. Sometimes we might think, this thing, what I'm doing it's it's um it's not that important. I remember many years ago I met this author. You might know the book, The Fiqh of Medicine. I used to work for a publishing company, and the author of the book came. And mashallah, one thing he said, I can't remember his name now, it's gone from my head. Some of you might remember him. He's a nice Sudanese brother. He said, brother, you know, this work that you're doing, this work is ibadah. It's ibadah. If you really understand, this is ibadah. Yeah. And I understood this more when I studied the hadith, the first hadith that we all learned, the hadith of intention. إنما الأعمال بالنيات. And I was reading the Jami' al-Ulum al-Hikam, and in there he mentioned that, you know, some of the people were saying that something which is very insignificant, yeah, in our eyes can become very weighty in the scale, on the scale of good deeds on the day of judgment, because of the intention. And something that might seem to be great, you know, someone doing 20 rakah, you know, they're doing charity, they're doing this and they're doing that and taking selfies and uploading onto social media, whatever. And they might think that they're doing quite a lot. Yeah, they might think they're doing quite a lot. But the intention, if the intention is not correct, if the intention is wrong, then they get nothing. So it's not the quantity. Allah says, "Alladhi liyabluwakum ayyukum ahsanu amala." Yeah, Allah wants to see which one of you is ahsanu amala, which one of you has the best, not aktharu amala. In Surah Al-Mulk, yeah, Allah created life and death in order to test us, to see which one of us is best in our conduct. Yeah. So what I was trying to say is that sometimes something might be so insignificant. So the people who fast, they know the dunya activity, whatever they do in the dunya is done with the intention of the akhirah. And I was saying, and I said this to my children the other day as well, is say, mommy and daddy gives you something to do, yeah, and you do it, yeah, and you do it, and you have the intention that I want to earn Allah, and I'm doing to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because Allah said, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُ إِلَّا إِيَّهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Allah has decreed that you worship none but Him, and that you be good to your parents. Yeah, and you have this in your mind. Yeah, and it might be simple as, oh, daddy said, give me a glass of water. Why can't he go and get, you know, this might be a thought that comes in the mind. Why can't he just go and get a glass of water? Why do I have to give it? No. Before I say it, before, you know, do it, and do it with the intention of getting reward. So he says, this is dunya thing. If you're going out to work every day, yeah, if you go, even, you know, Ghazali mentions, and although the narration itself is not authentic, you know, that sleep in the month of Ramadan is ibadah, because if you sleep to wake up for suhoor and to pray fajr, then you get reward for sleeping. The sleep becomes beneficial for you, and it becomes a means of you attaining paradise in the hereafter. So the people of the third level are people who empty their heart, empty their minds of worldly thoughts or anything that takes them away from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are they're always in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The dhikr, by the way, doesn't mean, you know, uttering certain words. You know, they might, yeah, that's part of the dhikr, but always they're conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Always think of Allah. Their heart is free from worldly concerns, and they live for the akhirah. Their dunya, the purpose of their existence is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are the siddiqoon. They are the anbiya, the prophets. They are the siddiqoon. They are the muqarrabun, the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made them to be His closest servants. And we pray and we hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enables us to reach this high level, this high maqam. That should be our objective. That should be our aim in life, to always achieve the best. You know, in the dunya, we're always striving and competing with each other to get the best in terms of the dunya, you know, to get the best job, the best income, the best car, and we like to show up. But, you know, really, we need to strive, you know, take our focus away from the dunya and focus more on the akhirah, and we should compete with each other. to achieve the best in the hereafter. وَفِي ذَلِكَ فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes this kind of competition, that people compete with each other for the reward of the akhirah. So the people of the third category, my dear brothers and sisters, they are those that live for the akhirah, and they are those who go the extra mile. They're not just content with the fara'id. They're not just content with the bare minimum. Yeah, they are people who go the extra mile. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you look at it in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I think this is in Surah Fatir, ثم أورثنا الكتاب الذين اصطفينا من عبادنا فمنهم ظالم لنفسه ومنهم مقتصد ومنهم سابق بالخيرات بإذن الله ذلك هو الفضل الكبير. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and we gave the book, meaning the Quran, for inheritance to such of our slaves whom we chose. Then of them are some who wrong themselves. You know, people, they might be having some weakness, and they every now and then they slip and they commit mistakes. Yeah, and of them are some who follow the middle course, muqtasid. Yeah, and of them are some who are, by Allah's leave, foremost in good deeds. They go the extra mile. Yeah, they are the ones that go do extra and extra, and they achieve hard. You know, we spend a lot of time, money, and effort for the dunya. But really, what we should be asking ourselves, how much time, effort are we spending for the akhirah? Do we go the extra mile? Yeah, I do my fara'id, that's it. I don't need to do anything else. Nah, sunnah is more important. Tahajjud, tarawih, man, I need to sleep. Yeah. People at iftar time, they eat, and there are people who I know who do that. You know, all day they sleep, and they feel hungry, and they wake up and they eat iftar and they sleep again. And that's it. That's Ramadan. We need to work hard, and they might, in between, they might do their salah. Yeah, wake up and do the salah, then go back to sleep again, and then wake up and do asr and go back to sleep again. Yeah, nothing more. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in a hadith, and this is a hadith. What happens when you go the extra mile? What happens to the believer? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevates their ranks. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevates their rank to high station. Allah's messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and this is a hadith, my dear brothers and sisters, in Sahih al-Bukhari. This is hadith in which Allah, the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Allah said, yeah, and which some letters, these kind of hadiths, and the letter scholars have defined it as hadith Qudsi, even though all hadiths are Qudsi. Yeah, but this is a letter terminology that some of the scholars use to distinguish between a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ says something from himself, and a hadith in which he narrates from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But like I said, everything that the Prophet ﷺ said is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and therefore essentially all the hadiths are hadith Qudsi. So, but anyway, that's not important. Inna Allah, the Prophet ﷺ said, Inna Allah qal, man aada li waliyan faqad adantuhu bil harb. وما تقرب إلي عبدي بشيء أحب إلي مما افترضت عليه وما يزال عبدي يتقرب إلي بالنوافل حتى أحبه فإذا أحببته كنت سمعه الذي يسمع به وبصره الذي يبصر به ويده التي يبطش بها ورجله التي يمشي بها وإن سألني لأعطينه الله ولئن استزادني لأؤذنه وما ترددت عن شيء أنا فاعله ترددي عن نفس المؤمن يكره الموت وأنا أكره مساءته. Subhanallah. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, my dear brothers and sisters, that Allah the Almighty said, whoever shows hostility, enmity towards a friend of mine, a wali, yeah, a friend of Allah, you know, we all hope to be friends of Allah. Whoever shows hostility, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala communicating via the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whoever shows hostility to a friend of mine, I have declared war upon him. My servant does not grow closer to me with anything more beloved to me than the duties I have imposed upon him, the fara'id. My servant continues to grow closer to me with extra good deeds until I love him. See, by doing the extra good deeds, you become more and more beloved to Allah. The more you do for Allah, the more He loves you. Allah loves us. Yeah, Allah will love us more. The more we dedicate ourselves to Him, the more beloved we become in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allah said, when I love Him, when I love Him, I am His hearing with which He hears, His seeing with which He sees, His hand with which He strikes, and His foot with which He walks. Were He to ask something from me, I will surely give it to Him. Were he to ask me for refuge, I will surely grant it to him. I do not hesitate to do anything as I hesitate to take the soul of the believer. For he hates death and I hate to displease him. SubhanAllah, this is the love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which He showers on the believer, because of their commitment, their dedication. So as Muslim, we must always strive to go the extra mile. And by doing so, you see, this hadith makes it very clear. The more we do, the more close we become to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and more beloved. And the Sawm khusus al-khusus, people who observe this kind of fast are the people who fit into the description mentioned in this hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this hadith, obviously, you can read this hadith, and it's in the 40 hadith of Imam An-Nawawi, and it's from Al-Bukhari. Now, I want to focus on Sawm al-Khusus. And as I mentioned at the beginning, my dear brothers and sisters, we have the Sawm al-Umum, which is the basic level, the basic abstention from food, drink, and desires. Sawm al-Khusus, Khusus al-Khusus, I just mentioned. Now, Sawm al-Khusus is the next level up from the basic level. And again, we might have a bit, and we might need to strive a bit more to get to the third level, but in order to get to that, we need to get to this level, and we need to focus a lot in this level, because this is a very important level. Because in Sawm if you understand Sawm al-Khusus, then you understand what Sawm is in the actual sense. Because very often people who observe the Sawm al-Umum are people who forget, and they commit sin, and they think that, look, I'm abstaining from food and drink and so on, and therefore I've done my fasting. And I mentioned in the first session, first week, that someone might go to a faqih and say, yeah, Sheikh, I've done such and such thing in the month of Ramadan. I did riba, I looked at something or whatever. Will that break my fast? The faqih, from a fiqh perspective, might be able to say, your fast is still valid. Yeah, you can continue fasting. Your fasting has not been affected. But from a spiritual perspective, the faqih cannot guarantee that your fast is still valid. And that's why we need to understand Sawm al-Khusus. Sawm al-Khusus, Imam al-Ghazali mentioned, is the Sawm al-Salihin, is the fasting of the pious people. And as we mentioned earlier on, it is the prevention of the limbs from committing sins. And we can break it down into 6 categories. First of all, the eyes. Do the eyes commit sins? Of course, my dear brothers and sisters. Did you know that with these eyes, we might be committing sins every day and every night? Therefore, we need to be aware of this. The eyes do commit sins. Yeah. So we have to lower the gaze. So when we're observing Sawm al-Khusus, when we're fasting, we need to make sure the eyes are fasting. And what does the word Sawm mean in Arabic? It means abstention. It doesn't mean abstaining from food, drink. It means abstaining. And when we're fasting, we need to abstain from haram looks. We have to lower the gaze and prevent prolonged looks towards things which are haram and dislike, or things that take us away from the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, subhanallah, people might think, oh brother, I don't look at anything haram, I don't look at them. But sometimes you're on, we got these small devices called mobile phones. Yeah, whatever brand you like, iPhone, Samsung. You go on social media, you go on YouTube, you might be looking at something haram and you get sin with the eyes. Sometimes we need to be very careful. Rasulullah said, and these things, by the way, they take us away from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The more we do this, the more we look at these, we might not be going out and looking at haram. We might be in our house, in our rooms, on our computer, on our phone, or the tablet, or the TV, and looking at something haram and getting sin. May Allah protect us from this. Rasulullah said, "An-nadhratu sahmun masmumun min sihami iblis. Man tarakaha khawfan min Allah, atahu Allah azza wa jalla imanan yajidu halawatahu fi qalbihi." Allahu Akbar. The Prophet ﷺ said, the glance is one of the poisoned arrows of the shaitan. Yeah, sahmun masmum, the glance. We're talking about the weapons of the shaitan. This is one of the weapons of the shaitan, the glance. An-nadaratu sahmun masnumun min siham iblis. The glance is one of the poisoned arrows of the shaitan. La'natullahi alayhi, on him be Allah's curse. Man tarakaha khawfan min Allahi, atahu Allah azza wa jalla imanan yajidu halawatahu fi qalbihi. He said, whoever abandons it, whoever forsakes it for the fear of Allah, khawfan min Allah, Allah will give him, Allah will grant him faith, imanan, yajidu halawatahu fi qalbihi. Allah will grant him iman, the sweetness of which he will find in his heart. He will feel the sweetness of iman in the heart. So be careful with the glance. We have to be careful with the glance. Not only in the month of Ramadan. Remember, and I like to emphasize this again, that Ramadan has come to condition our akhlaq, and renew our commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to strengthen our iman. Yeah. And when Ramadan comes, when Ramadan leaves us, it doesn't mean that all the good things would leave as well, and we revert back to doing whatever we were doing before. Ramadan has come to train us, to condition us, to make us better people. It teaches us how to lower the gaze. Yeah. So when you're fasting, your eyes are fasting. Yeah. And it goes to both brothers and sisters. Sometimes we like to focus more on the brothers more than the sisters. It goes to everyone. Secondly, preserving the tongue, preserving hifzul lisan, yeah, preserving the tongue from evil expressions such as lying, backbiting, gossiping, slandering, quarreling. All the things that people can you imagine. The tongue is a very small piece of flesh that we have inside our mouth. It's very soft. Yeah. Sometimes we're not able to do so much with our hand as much as we are able to do with our tongue. With the tongue, you can hurt somebody. With the tongue, you can slander somebody. With the tongue, you can lie and destroy relationships, start arguments, start war. Yeah, we can't do so much with our hands. The tongue is very dangerous. It is very dangerous. And Rasulullah said, whoever can give me guarantee of that which is between their two jaws and that which is between their two thighs, I give them guarantee of paradise. Yeah. So this is the tongue. So we have to preserve the tongue from all evil expressions. Yeah. And we need to condition the tongue with good words, with speaking good and dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The beloved Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam said, Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir. He made it a condition of iman. He made it a condition of iman. You are not a true believer. You are not a complete believer. A person does not fully believe in Allah and the last day. Until he does this. So Rasulullah said, Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir falyaqul khayran aw liyasmut. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever believes in Allah and the last day, let him speak good or remain silent. من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليقل خيرا أو ليصمت ومن كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليكرم جاره ومن كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليكرم ضيفه. This is the completion of the hadith. He said, whoever believes in Allah and the last day should speak good or remain silent. You got nothing better to say? Be quiet. Don't talk. You don't need to talk. But people feel the need that they need to talk all the time. Yeah, and you got adverts, it's good to talk. Yeah, it's good to talk when the talk is good. When the talk is not good, people, what they do, They like to talk about other people. They like to talk about, find faults in other people, and they like to insult other people. They want to start argument. They want to, with the tongue. This is all wrong. Yeah, sometimes, um, anyway, this is something completely different. Um, yeah, so the tongue has to be. We need to condition the tongue, and we need to prevent ourselves from talking unless we need to talk. And when we talk good. And also, Rasulullah said, whoever believes in Allah and the last day, let him honor his neighbor. This is something very important, as we need to honor the neighbor, the people around us. And whoever believes in Allah and the last day, let him honor his guest. So this is all these three things that Rasulullah mentioned are like a thing that completes a person's faith. Your faith is incomplete. If somebody does the opposite of these things, then this is a sign that there is some sort of deficiency in their iman, and they need to, they need help. They need to abandon doing what they're doing, and they need to stop doing what they're doing. In another hadith, and this is again about the tongue. The tongue. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and this hadith is narrated by Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu anhuma. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Al-Muslimu man salima al-Muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi." Yeah. وَالْمُهَاجِرُ مَنْ هَجَرَ مَا نَهَى اللَّهُ عَنْهُ مُتَّفَقٌ عَلَيْهِ. This is a hadith in Bukhari and Muslim. A Muslim is the one, the Prophet ﷺ said, a Muslim is the one from whose tongue and hand the Muslims are saved. And a muhajir, an immigrant, is the one who refrains from what Allah has forbidden. Now, this shows, our people should not only be safe from physical abuse, physical harm from our hands and our limbs, but also they should be safe from our tongue, because like I said, the tongue is so powerful. It can start wars, it can destroy relationship, yeah, but it can do great good. It can make peace and mend relationship. Now, people look at this hadith and they say, oh, this hadith only talks about Muslim being nice to Muslim. But there is another narration, I think it is in Ahmad, that al-Muslimu man salima nasu min lisanihi wa yadihi, that a Muslim is the one from whose tongue other people, yeah, regardless of whether they're Muslim or non-Muslim, they are safe. So as Muslim, we should be good to all people, and we should not harm them physically or verbally, yeah. People should only see good from us, and if we do that, people will see that this is what a Muslim is. But unfortunately, we don't know how to behave with each other. In fact, Muslims, we all talk about unity and love and the need to unite, but in reality, we are always fighting, arguing, quarreling. Look at Facebook. Facebook is a nasty place. Social media, yeah, it's a nasty place. And I'll be honest, when I first joined social media like Facebook, I did get a bit carried away myself, I would say, and may Allah forgive me, because you go in to discuss somebody, you say something and somebody disagrees, and then you have one post after another, and then what does it do? It creates hatred and dislike for the other person. We don't need that. Yeah, we need to move away from that, and we need to only speak about things which benefits, which is good. And if it's going to create harm and division, then brother, you need to stop doing that. Now, if you remember, my dear brothers and sisters, and I'm going to be finishing soon as well, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam talked about fasting being a shield, yeah, a shield, a protection. And I mentioned last week or the week before that some of the scholars say that riba, which is backbiting, destroys the fast. And there is a narration which I found in Fadail Ramadan of Ibn Abi Dunya, which mentioned that fasting is a shield. Fasting is a shield, therefore don't make a crack in it with riba. Don't destroy it with riba. Yeah, because and there are some scholars who believe that riba, this is a minority opinion, but who knows, this is the view of some of the scholars, that if you're fasting and you backbite, yeah, this backbiting destroys your fast. It makes your fast invalid. Sufyan, Imam Sufyan is one of those. He said, al-ghibatu tufsidu siyam. So this opinion does exist. Yeah, that if you fast and you backbite, you're sitting down and talking about somebody else, and it's very easy to do this nowadays with the mobile phone. And unfortunately, I don't want to say sisters do it more, brothers do it as well. You know, it's bad. We need to stop. These things need to stop. Rasulullah SAW said, وَالصِّيَامُ جُنَّةٌ فَإِذَا كَانَ يَوْمُ صَوْمِ أَحَدِكُمْ فَلَا يَرْفُثْ وَلَا يَصْخَبْ فَإِنْ سَابَّهُ أَحَدٌ أَوْ قَاتَلَهُ فَلْيَقُلْ إِنِّي صَائِمٌ. Fasting is a junnah. Fasting is a shield. When any one of you is observing fast, he should not indulge in obscene language, nor should he raise his voice. And if anyone reviles him, if anyone wants to fight with him or tries to abuse him, or tries to quarrel with him, he should say, I am fasting. I am fasting. Now, some people, I often get this question, and I'm sure you probably think, and I mentioned this in the first week as well, what's the purpose of saying I am fasting to a person who wants to start a fight with me, or wants to quarrel with me, or argue with me? It's not saying to the other person, my dear brothers and sisters, it's actually saying it to yourself, reminding yourself, I am fasting, I need to stop, I need to control myself, I must not retaliate, I move away, move away, stop. Yes, I am fasting. In this time, saying I am fasting is saying it to yourself and not to the other person. Yeah, maybe the other person, it will help as well if he's a Muslim. Remind him that, look, we're all fasting, we shouldn't be doing this. But mainly it is to yourself. Third thing is preventing the hearing, the sama, from listening to all that is haram and disliked. Yeah. And again, it could be listening to haram music, haram talk. Even you might not be backbiting or slandering, but you're sitting in a gathering where it's happening and you're enjoying it. Yeah, this is also listening to the haram. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala criticizes people. He says, they like to listen to falsehood, to devour anything forbidden. Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't like this. Number 4, preventing the rest of the limbs, the jawarih, from sins. My dear brothers and sisters, it is meaningless. It doesn't mean, it is silly, it is meaningless to abstain from food, which is normally halal. Food and drink is normally halal. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to simply abstain from food and drink while you continue to commit haram. Imam Abu Hamid al-Ghazali says about such people, مثال هذا الصائم مثال من يبني قصرا ويهدم مصرا. Such people who fast are like people who build castles or build a big building while they destroy a whole country. So you're building a building, a tower, and at the same time while you're doing that, you're destroying a whole country. Yeah, doesn't make sense. That's what these people do. People who fast and continue to commit sins. Fifthly, my brothers and sisters, and this is something very, very important. I mentioned this, I think, in the first and the second week. We need to reduce intake of food at the time of iftar. People go crazy, man. This is in the month of Ramadan. Some people actually, they look forward to iftar in Ramadan. That's the best part of Ramadan. I know there's a joke in Ramadan. Somebody mentioned, I've heard it. I think I might have heard it from our elders. There are people who say that, people who do, especially people who don't fast, they say, I haven't fasted. Yeah, and this is the sin, but I don't want to commit another sin by not having iftar. So people go crazy in iftar. Iftar time, Ramadan is not about eating more. It's about reducing our attachment to food and drink and the physical desires. Because if you remember, my dear brothers and sisters, we spoke about the shaitan, yeah, and how the desires of the stomach and the private part are the tools of the shaitan, yeah. And the first sin of mankind is what? The first sin of human being, the first human that they committed, the first mistake was to eat, is the sin of the stomach. And Imam al-Ghazali said, Imam Ghazali says that through food and drink, the desires become strengthened. And when the desires become strong, it becomes easy for the shaitan to whisper into and to take control of our feelings and thought. Inna shaitana, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Inna shaitana la yajri min al-insani majra dam فَضَيِّقُوا مَجَارِهِ بِالْجُوعِ. We mentioned this hadith last week. Shaitan travels inside the human through the bloodstream. So make the bloodstream narrow, make the path narrow, biljua, with hunger. My dear brothers and sisters, I want to quickly finish off with a few things. Remember, the ethics of fasting is not to sleep all day. Yeah, I mentioned that there are people who think, "Oh, I'm fasting, I'm so tired, what I'll do, I'll sleep all day," and that's it. They sleep, they're on their mobile phone all night, and they sleep, and they become more hungry, and they go, oh, they eat more during iftar time. Yeah, fasting is no excuse to be lazy and weak. Remember the Battle of Badr, which is known as which is the most important battle in the history of Islam. Yeah, it's so important that people who took part, they would feel proud or in identifying themselves as someone who took part in Badr. It was, it was a decisive battle. It was a battle. Allah Subhanahu wa Taala calls it the day of Furqan. It happened in the month of Ramadan. Yeah, so there's no excuse for you to be lazy. The more you eat, the more tired you become, and then you can't pray tahajjud and tarawih. Yeah, with the lockdown, some people might think, yeah, that it's a good time for us to eat more. We've got plenty of time. We don't have to go to the mosque. We don't have to find parking and leave early. Take your time, enjoy the food. Yeah, that's wrong. We need to reduce the intake of food, and we need to stop wasting time and utilize the time that we have. Time is a barakah. It is a barakah. Number 6, and this is the last point I'll mention, my dear brothers and sisters, is that once we have had our iftar, this is something that we do every day. Once we have our iftar, we should be between hope and fear. Between fear and hope. Why? Because we don't know if our fasting has been accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, we shouldn't be celebrating and become excited. The food, yeah. We need to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allahumma taqabbal minna, when Allah accept from us. Ask for his forgiveness. Allah, we never know. Yeah, like I said, we might have fulfilled the obligation, but has the fast been accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So we must be hopeful. We should have the hope that Allah will accept our fast, but at the same time we should have the fear, and therefore we need to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness. At the time of iftar, make it a habit. Yeah, make it a habit. Get together. Make dua with the family. I do this with my family. Make dua with the family at the time of iftar, my dear brothers and sisters. You can't do it in Arabic, do it in your own language. Not a problem. The last thing, absolutely last thing, this is just a reminder. We're entering upon the last 10 days of Ramadan. Yeah. Today is the 19th, and from tomorrow is the 20th of Ramadan. And we know Laylatul Qadr, my dear brothers and sisters, in the last 10 days of Ramadan. We need to seek out the light Laylatul Qadr. Time doesn't allow me to go on and to talk about Laylatul Qadr, but I'm sure there will be many discussion on this. But this is the best night in the entire year. Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Khairum min alf shahr. It is better than 1,000 months. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will make extra effort in the last 10 days, wake up his family, and he will be very serious in those days while seeking the Laylatul Qadr. So Laylatul Qadr, we have to seek the Laylatul Qadr, particularly in the last 10, the odd nights of the last 10 days. And remember, in the hadith in which Rasulullah spoke about the coming of Ramadan and the gates of paradise and hellfire being closed, in the same hadith, in one narration, he mentions that in it there is a night which is better than 1,000 months, and whoever is deprived from the blessings of this month, of this night, is indeed someone who's deprived, the biggest loser. The biggest loser is the one who finds Laylatul Qadr and doesn't benefit from it. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from among those who hear this speech and follow the best of it. Jazakumullah khairan. We will have our last session next week, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us. So Jazakumullah khairan for all brothers and sisters for coming online. So until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.